My name's Clarke, and I drink wine, enjoy wine. There's no question wine's going to be better. I often think, would I have had so much fun in wine 10 years ago? And I look back at my notes from 10 years ago of wines which are technically the same label now, and the difference in quality is enormously improved. Every year at this show we have more countries coming in, which 5 or 6 years ago might have thought, I don't know, am I up to tasting, I don't know, the Romanian wines today, or the Bulgarian wines today, or the Chinese wines today, or whatever. And you go now and you guarantee that you're going to find some exciting discoveries.
Are more people buying wine, and is the marketplace expanding into places like China, do you think?
Worldwide, more people in newer markets are buying wine. In the more mature markets, with the global economic crisis at the moment, some countries are seeing a sort of stagnation in wine drinking figures, Britain being one of them. Some of the bottom of the British market has dropped out because wine is a choice. And when you're just getting into the wine world and your income is relatively low and is being hit by the recession, then you stop drinking wine. But in general, what we find in Britain, and what I find going around sort of Europe and the Southern Hemisphere a lot, is that there's more and more interest in what one might call, being boring old-fashioned, you might call it the middle-class approach to wine. In other words, I'm interested in this, I like flavours, I'm prepared to actually delve into stuff a bit and pay a bit more. That seems to be booming.
What about the emerging markets? China, Brazil, India?
Brazil, India, China, Russia, they're all very, very different emerging markets. And it's quite difficult to generalise. There's no doubt at all that each time I go to China, the wine world is just fermenting like this. There's a mad enthusiasm in certain parts of China. I mean, if I'm in Shanghai, it's very different to if I'm in Xiamen or somewhere like that, or Fuzhou, where I would find it much more difficult to see where this wine world is going. But as again, going back to old-fashioned terms, as the middle class burgeons in China, one of the easiest ways is to say, hey, look how well I'm doing, is that thing which is so portable and so givable, which is a bottle of wine. Make sure it's a decent bottle. Therefore, the sort of the honor or is with you for having the decent bottle. It's with the person you give it to. You share it, and it's such an easy way to say, look at me, I'm on the move. I'm doing well out of this society.
So the marketing approach by European style, grape-based wines is working in places like China. Their marketing techniques are obviously a success. They're getting into that market.
I think the French have put a lot of hard work into China. They started with Japan initially, and they put 20, 30 years of work into Japan. They put a lot of work into China now, probably I suspect more than any other country, and the Chinese seem to like the French approach, which is as it should be, because however much I may champion Australian wine and New Zealand wine and Chilean wine and all these things, these are relative newcomers into the top level of quality. I think a lot of markets, like the emerging Chinese market, want to actually see what is the completely reliable and globally accepted symbol of a fine bottle of wine, and nearly all those symbols will in fact be French. I've had some pretty heavy nights on what, of course, is often called rice wine, but is actually a rice spirit. I remember a couple of years ago I took the train from Beijing to Harbin, and I fell in with some bad company. I was willing, I can't complain, but we spent the night on I should think 50% proof, maybe even more than that, rice spirit. I can't pretend that I was a better man the next day. I think that it's actually got a little too much fire and a little too much rough flavour, unless they're bringing across some of the very nice, classy ones, which are quite a lot more expensive in China, and I would expect them to be here. I would wouldn't immediately say that this is going to be a fantastic market outside the Chinese diaspora.
You were saying that the French spent about 30 years trying to get into Japan and China. Perhaps they need to upgrade their marketing techniques and it'll take time.
Well, it's going into a market like this, a very mature market, with so much choice. Every possible choice from all around the world. Now, China may say, look, we want to be there too, which is absolutely fine. But I don't think they should think it's going to be easy, because everyone here has got so much choice just thrown at them all the time. You go into a bar here, a decent bar, and you've got products of 30 different countries there. Now, China wants to make that 31, fine. But I don't think it's going to be just a walkover deal at all. And I think that unless they bring in some of those rather sophisticated spirits, which I have had and I have enjoyed, but they cost me quite a lot of money in Shanghai and Beijing, so I can't believe they'll be cheap here. I think the rougher ones, I can't really see what market the rougher ones are going to get. The rough market in here is not largely fed by some cheap vodka and things, and that's not even a rough spirit. It's a pretty boring spirit, which you then mix with something else. If you want to do that with the Chinese stuff, fine, but I think on the whole people will find a much cheaper way of doing it.